the interest of time, let me introduce to you the next speaker, Brian Neely, Chief Sales Officer of Job&Talent. Job&Talent was born in 2009 in Madrid, Spain. We often encounter business models that start in US and then expand to Europe and rest of the world. It's rare to see the reverse. So after the explosive growth in Europe, building a multi-billion-dollar category, Job&Talent has made a grand entry into the United States. Here is the main man behind that growth. Please welcome Brian Neely, Chief Sales Officer, leading the company's growth, Job&Talent's growth here in the United States, and when on his way to making it a billion-dollar business here. Over to you, Brian.
Thanks, Gaurav. Appreciate it. Appreciate the invite from Hypertrack. So I know that we're on a tight schedule today, so I will try to keep us on track. So just a quick bit of housekeeping and kind of where we started is Gaurav mentioned, we've been in business since 2009. So in that 15-year period of time, Job&Talent has been growing our footprint within the light industrial staffing space across the globe. With over $2.5 billion in global revenue, we're one of the largest niche players in the industry. We represent over 3,500 clients and 500,000 plus workers that have been placed and managed throughout 10 different countries. Our focus is very specific. We work with logistics, warehousing, retail distribution, manufacturing, food and beverage type companies to use our tech solution to really specifically hit their overall production increase goals. And most importantly, I think especially right now in this economy, we're very well capitalized. We have over $1 billion in funding from SoftBank, BlackRock, Goldman, Kinnevik, et cetera, which makes us incredibly financially viable in a market where most of our peers are struggling with cash and overall usage of ready available finances. So specifically for the US, if we look at our team and kind of the growth that was mentioned, we have grown the country into 40 plus states in a period of 2 years. We have over 200 strategic national clients, and where that may not sound like a lot, the way that we work is very specific to a very large customer base that's multi-state and multi-location. So we're looking at an average size of 300 or 400 talent that are working for us through our technology at any one site, and those sites may be 11 to 12 sites across the US. So there's a very large number of talent working for one company over multiple locations, and that's where we find the app really adds the most value. And specifically when we look at our leadership, I think that's the other huge reason we've been able to grow so quickly in the US. We've got over 25 years on average of experience in this field, both from a tech perspective and also a staffing perspective. So combined leadership strength is incredibly well known and understood in this marketplace. And lastly, I think just from a go-to-market perspective, it's important to understand that we as a company do not strive for retail or small business accounts, which is why that total number, as I mentioned, at 200 is a little bit smaller than what you would probably understand. But it is purposeful, and it's to help us scale in the right way over a period of time. I think where a lot of folks in the light industrial space try to use technology and ultimately fail is that they try to go after any and every customer that's within the frame of the overall network for XYZ size. We've developed a program that's specific to a location that's large enough where we know this impact will be realized, and there's a true ROI present with this technology. So what I'll speak about a little bit today and how our app solves some of these key customer pains is the industry overall is very riddled with poor attendance, high turnover, and low satisfaction scores from employees, and overall businesses are seeing lower production and higher costs as a direct result. Job&Talent's created a tech-led workforce management solution that helps businesses improve their overall production by an average of about 13 to 15%, which ultimately eliminates most of these costs. So when you're looking for kind of ultimately what our platform will provide, it's going to be higher quality, it's going to be more reliable workforce through performance gamification and improved behaviors, geofencing and clocking, and ultimately a direct result of having access to real-time data visibility, which will ultimately improve attendance, and those feedback loops become much more frequent, which bubbles up into this more reliable, higher quality workforce. So what I'll highlight today in the presentation is, the outcomes we've just discussed. How are they achieved specifically through performance gamification and the visibility that we just mentioned, and how our Job and Talent business app specifically does those aspects, which is, by the way, available to download now in the Google and Apple stores. But I think specifically getting into what the app does and walking through the technology will give everyone on the call a much better opportunity to understand how this is working. So the first stage of our technology is going to be talking through the workers view of our app. So specifically, when you look at a worker, we send a push notification as they're assigned to a job, asking them to confirm their shift, right? So when you look at that first bubble here on the left side, they get a little notification on their cell phone saying, you've got 2 upcoming shifts, please dive in and accept these shifts, etc. So the next page, you'll see that it's asking them to confirm that shift. It's incredibly important that we do this daily with all of our talent, because it provides a tremendous amount of visibility to the supervisor, the general manager in that specific location, to tell them how many people are actually going to show up the next morning at 3:30 the previous day. So on 3:30 on a Monday, you're going to be able to understand how many people are showing up to work already that have confirmed their shift for the next shift Tuesday morning, if that makes sense. And then as a result of confirming your shift, we give you a reward, right? There's a behavior reward that is given to the talent saying that, hey, you confirm your shift, great job. Your response rate's going to go up 2.5%. So we are really using that behavioral modification and changes to the positive to keep people engaged in the app and to continue to go and confirm their shifts. So once confirmed, or they say they cannot attend, that's sent off to the manager. They can understand exactly who's going to show up the next day. And what I'll show you is how we actually show up the next day. So the worker gets to the location that next day to sign in for their shift. And this is where our geolocation comes in. So Gaurav and I were talking about geolocation and how important it is to the overall kind of shift dynamic. We are actively tracking these folks in the background on their phones during the period of time when they're supposed to be working, right? So that tracking begins when they enter the geofence as we go into the facility to check in for our shift, right? So talent goes into the shift. It will give them a notification, pops up on their phone and says, hey, you're here, please check in. They automatically are checked in for reference, but we ask them to manually check in because, again, it's another step where they're engaging in the app and we can reward them for that behavior. So they've checked in, they're here for their shift. Once they leave the shift, if it's lunch, if it's breaks, etc., the app will track when they leave the geofence, and they will basically accumulate a total hours worked, total hours, minutes worked, etc., at the end of that shift day. So started at 12:54, finished at 9:06, 8 hours and 12 minutes of total time, and it asks the talent to rate the shift. This is incredibly important because in any platform marketplace, you want to make sure that both sides of that platform can give ratings and help overall the production and growth of that workplace platform. So specifically, we allow the talent to rate the supervisors and the overall shift performance from their eyes, and we allow the supervisors and the general managers, et cetera, to rate their talent in a frequent basis. So they say, excellent, it was a great shift today. And from there, they move on to seeing, hey, your attendance is fantastic. You were on time today. You worked the whole shift, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. It will give them a behavioral reward saying that your attendance was fantastic. Conversely, if they don't show up or they were late to the shift, we obviously know that based on when they check in or cross the geofence, it will give them a different message. You need to improve your attendance, or this is an opportunity that may slip through your fingers and not be available much longer, right? So we are really giving very real-time feedback in consistent loops across multiple different applications within this product, so that we are improving the overall performance of the talent for each of these individual customers. So now let's move to the company's app. So this is from the point of view of the actual supervisor, shift manager, general manager, et cetera, depending on the size of the facility or who's engaging in the app. So when you look at this, specifically, you have the first section, which is creating your shift, right? You want to create your shift. All the different dynamics of that shift are created by the supervisor. They can enter, however many teams they have. Do they have team names? When are those shifts happening? Is it first shift, second shift, third shift? Is it a rolling shift? Is it something that's additional or an overlapping shift on the weekend? They can create individual shifts within this product at any given time. So if shifts are going to change or there's new shifts that come available because of lack of production in the facility, they can immediately go on their phone and within 30 seconds upload a new shift and then actually attach people to that shift to invite them to sign up and confirm their attendance of that new shift. We do a lot of this internally with our on-site management teams and our branch teams to actually facilitate setting up shifts and inviting initial folks to shifts, but the supervisors can do this in hand. And then once we've kind of got a shift set up, they are essentially divided into sections, right? So if you've got specific talent unskilled in a shift that you want to have all bundled up underneath of one supervisor, you can create that dynamic. You can have all your skilled folks under one dynamic. If you have professional folks or you have administrative folks or different types of people within the building, you can create different shifts for that as well. And then the coolest part about this, I think, in terms of visibility is kind of the insights that you can get from this. So as a supervisor, if you want to see how all shifts worked in a certain day, you can see all the attendance. You can dial in to specific employees and how they're performing. But ultimately, you can also see if I asked for 10 people to show up on Tuesday morning, I can see how many people confirmed, as we mentioned, the night before that shift starts. The next morning before the shift is in full swing, let's say it's a 7 o'clock shift and I look at 7:05, I can see how many people were requested, how many actually confirmed, how many are actually in the building right now working, which is incredibly important because at some of these facilities, you have to walk a country mile, right, to get to the place where you'd be able to understand what or who is working right now in the building, right? So this gives any supervisor, line manager, et cetera, the ability to pull their phone out and see exactly how much production they should have today based on who actually attended the shift. And then overall, you can look at all shifts in a day, how much attendance was received as a result of anyone who showed up in all three of those shifts collectively as a group. You can also look at this daily. You can look at it for the week. There's a lot of different ways to spread this data around and look at it in a real-time capacity. And then you can also see if there's any no-shows. You could dial into that specific no-show bucket and see who the people were, how many shifts overall they attended, what's their overall production rating, et cetera, and which we'll go through now. So the ratings and review system has been incredibly well received. And it's one of the reasons that we've been able to prove positive ROI with many of our customers, as we'll get into in a moment. But specifically, the ability for a supervisor to rank someone's overall performance on a day-to-day basis gives a level of transparency to the talent that is not usually happening in these large volume environments. So with that immediate kind of gratification or understanding that they need to improve those behaviors, it really does put us in a very different category than most in this space. So on the left, you'll see Maya is a 5-star for today. What did you do well, Maya? Effort was great. Attitude was great. You did a great job, Maya. Blah, 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 blah. It gives you opportunity to write a bit of a comment. And then when you look at Maya's overall ratings, you can see her response. You can see her attendance over all shifts. So out of 453 shifts, she's got 98% attendance. Overall, she's a 4.7 star rating out of 220 total ratings. So clearly Maya's been working for a very long time at this location. And you can also look at the map and see like where were some outliers for Maya. Was there a reason for that? And you can dive into, was there potentially a satisfaction issue those days or those time frames where the supervisor didn't run a positive shift, and maybe the shift wasn't great. She didn't show up the day after that shift wasn't great. You can look at different insights as to why certain people or a bulk group of people are underperforming or potentially not happy with their shift, because again, they're rating the supervisors, they're rating the shift on a day-to-day basis as well. And then lastly, you can see the supervisor ratings on the right here. So you can see what a supervisor underneath of the GM or whoever the case may be is actually getting rated. So out of how many shifts, just like the talent, we're giving them a 90% rating on 340 shifts. In terms of attendance, they've been 92% attended on the 340 shifts. And overall, the talent rating this supervisor thinks they're 4.7, right? Based on the ratings that they've given. So this is a very twofold app where you can see not only talent reviews, but you can also see how your supervisors are performing and provide them with additional training. So lastly, I'll talk through our rehire tab and our insights tab. So specifically our rehire tab is going to provide you with a very fast way to quickly identify all your top performers. This is kind of a function for several different reasons, right? You're going to either have one, a group of folks that you want to bring on permanent at any given time. Let's say post 4 or 6 months, et cetera. You want to bring a group of talent in. Right now, it's a very manual process. You have to ask the supervisors who are our top performers, or HR has to pull lists and look at attendance, look at all these other pieces. With our app, all of that is bundled up into these ratings, right? You can see Ethan Sanchez has 100% response rate on all the shifts he was invited to. He's had 98% attendance on the 453 shifts, and he's got a 4.7 rating overall. So I would think Ethan is up for permanent employment. He is an automatic yes, right? You can sort and actually pull that functionality into this hiring tab in a bulk fashion, right? So you can very quickly say, who are my 4 stars and above, right? And anyone who's 4 stars and above, I'm going to sort that and I'm going to provide that list to HR and essentially say, these are the folks that should be hired when their tenure is up in terms of their temp to perm agreement. And then lastly, if there's, again, shifts that come up for overtime and you want to have the best folks get the first crack, you can essentially send out a request to rehire or ask that they be assigned to a specific shift that you have available. So it's all very intuitive, very easy to use from a supervisor perspective. If you're going to go forward and use this for turning temp into perm associates, or using this to find the best people and put them all on the same shift together. So just real quick, I'll go through a couple of real life examples. So from a case study perspective, this is a European logistics company that we worked with. When we engaged with this company, they were seeing less than desirable attendance rates, lack of overall visibility, and understanding of who was assigned to their shifts, and no real system of overall tracking for reliability purposes. In 8 weeks, we were able to come in, improve the attendance by almost 7 percentage points to an almost perfect number, right? 99.6% attendance in logistics is very hard to come by. And we did that by developing a systematic approach through this technology to ensure that the appropriate headcount was showing up on each shift. And then the other case that I'd like to point out is in the US. This is most recent. So we just went live with this group a couple months ago. And in the first 5 weeks, we were able to accomplish quite a bit, as you see. But overall, this was a Fortune 500 packing company that was using our tool more so for the feedback rating system, and obviously had some big production wins as a result. So we were looking at very stagnant productivity with this customer. They overall, missed quotas for the number of widgets they needed to produce in any given month. And the overall lack of feedback for their workforce was causing a very high level of disengagement and made it very difficult to retain their top performers. So the poor performance that resulted from those pieces was left unmanaged and caused them to miss forecast planning and cost them millions in revenue opportunity. So once we got in there, again, using the rating system, we developed a co-approach with this company to really push productivity to where you see the levels on this case study. 17% ratings uplift from the time we got involved, pre-app launch to post-app launch within 5 weeks. There was a 10.7% OTIF increase, which is huge in this category in that short period of time. And overall, about a 13% productivity increase, which would be millions and millions of dollars in terms of total revenue realized through the solution. So I know we've just talked about a lot in a very short period of time, and I think we've got about 4 minutes left potentially for questions. But overall, we're seeing 50 plus clients in a very short period of time using this app successfully, seeing similar production increases and results. And it only takes us a couple of weeks to roll this technology out with our on-site solution. So keep that in mind. If there's anyone that you would like to help schedule a demo with us, or anybody that you feel could benefit from this solution, please let us know, and happy to answer any questions if time permits.
Excellent, Brian. There are questions. First question, the confirmation incentive that you mentioned for the shift, is it based on a point system, or was it dollar bonus given for their response for confirming the
So
shift?
we actually do rewards in a couple different ways, and it's customized for every single group that we work with. So we ask often our customers, how would you like to reward folks that have certain buckets of attendance? Is it a gift card that we can provide them, or we pay them once they reach a certain attendance mark over a period of time? Or is it something we do from a points perspective? Some of the clients want us to match their points programs and give rewards based on the same kind of levels that their permanent staff would receive for similar attendance goals over a period of time.
Thank you, Brian. Second question, what are the privacy considerations in Europe, where you started, Job&Talent started, and in the United States for the background location tracking of workers? How do you handle that?
Great question. I am ill equipped to answer that at a high level. What I would say is the reason we've rolled the app out in the United States before we've rolled the app out in other European countries is because of that reason, right? We are still working in the app in other countries abroad. However, there are a lot of restrictions, right? There are things that we can and can't do. So there are different modifications that we've had to make to the technology in order to push through some of those privacy concerns or go around them in a legal fashion overseas. So there's probably more of that I could have expanded upon. If anybody has individual questions, I can connect you with the right folks in the right country. But there are so many different ways we could slice that answer by country. It's tough for me to give an overarching answer.
Completely understand. Thanks a lot, Brian, for joining us today. Congratulations on building an amazing business, and hope you join us also as the speaker for next year's ShiftWork Summit. With that, we have a great set of sessions coming up.